the Bible has to say about all of these different areas and how we can overcome. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the subject of hypocrisy. On page 21, I hope that you had an opportunity to go over the questions. What is a hypocrite? Just describing in your own words. What is a hypocrite? Katie, and then that's Janice. I'm sorry.
Someone who tells you how to live one way and they live the opposite.
And they live the opposite. Okay. All right, Janice.
Being something that you're not.
Being something that you're not. Because basically, when we're looking at the root word for hypocrisy, that means playing a part, playing a role, being an actor. Of course, for the Greeks, you understand that the theater was very, very important, and the Greek word that's used here, of course, is an actor, being something that you're not. How is it? Actually, I don't want to go through all of these individual questions here. I would really like to start into the next section. Number 7. Who encouraged Barnabas to play the hypocrite in Galatians chapter 2? It was Peter. It was Peter. And what was Peter doing?
He was eating with the Gentiles as long as the Jews were not around, but as soon as they came around, he got up and walked away from them.
Right. And what did Paul do?
Paul called him on the carpet about it. He called him down for it.
Yeah, that's right. It called him out for his what? His hypocrisy. Galatians chapter 2 might be one of these verses that we talk about here in verses 11 through 13 that we can keep in our back pocket. You look at denominations today. How do they like to view Peter? Who is Peter? The first what? Peter, the first pope. You look at Galatians chapter 2. What did Paul do? Did Paul admonish the first pope? That is scandalous, to say the least. But we see here that Paul had called out Peter for his hypocrisy. And what does this tell us? That Barnabas had fallen into Peter's hypocrisy. What does this tell us about hypocrisy? Meemaw?
Anybody could be a victim by ignorance or carelessness.
That's right. And if we're not careful, we can be sucked into it as well. Hypocrisy. We talked about the subject matter that hypocrisy is contagious. Who did Jesus call a hypocrite in Matthew chapter 7? What's that? Okay. Well, I think concerning its context, you're right, but more specifically, as we're looking at the first few verses from Matthew chapter 7, who did Jesus call a hypocrite? One who does what, Meemaw?
Those who do not consider their own faults before judging others or hold others to a higher standard than they themselves.
That's right. And so I think that this is important for us to keep in mind because certainly in the world, Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1, I would say is one of the most popular verses. One of the most popular verses that is recited by people who aren't Christians, which says what? Judge not, lest you be judged yourself. And of course, whenever that verse is brought up, what's the context that verse that folks will bring up that verse? Well, when you call out sin for what it is, you call it, well, judge it. You're judging me, and Jesus says, don't judge. Is Jesus saying not to judge?
No.
Maybe. I would say maybe. How about this? How about this? If you are in the same sin, you are not to judge, right? Because what Jesus is saying, I mean, judgment. We have to judge. We have to judge. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, this was a problem with the early church in that congregation that they had a problem with judgment. They had a problem with judgment, and we need to be able to judge things. We have to. You know, we're not to keep wicked company. How do we know what wicked company is unless we make a judgment call on folks? Well, Jesus is saying, you know, if you're involved in sin, take care of your own sin. That way, you'll be able to be better suited in order to help other folks. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't try to point out other people's faults when you have these huge glaring faults in your own life. I'm sorry, James.
I believe that people can still judge, but they need to realize with whatever judgment they're throwing on that person, and they're in the same sin, God's going to judge them.
Right.
The same. So, and not only that, when He judged them for that sin, but He will also judge them for them being a hypocrite also.
Yes. Verse 2, for in the same way that you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Which is an important statement when it comes to standards of measurement. How do we judge righteousness and unrighteousness? What are we using? So a lot of people just use their own opinion about things. You know, this book, this is our standard of measure for righteousness. Why don't we move on to the next section? I appreciate everybody taking the time to answer those questions. We're going to be talking about the subject of gossip and the sin of gossip. Ooh, we're going to be talking about gossip. I tell you what, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody who wouldn't be able to say, you know, this is certainly an area that I can work on. Over the last few lessons, I've been starting off a lesson telling an Aesop tale. For anybody that wasn't here, I was reading a book of Aesop tales, and it's usually involving animals and animals interacting with each other, and all these tales they tell there's a moral to the story, and this one is how a leopard was watching 3 bulls, and this leopard wanted to seize them for his food. His chances would be better when the bulls are separated, but they enjoyed being together so much that wherever one was, the others were sure to be as well. Knowing he must capture them one by one, if at all, the leopard began to spread rumors among the bulls until he had created so much jealousy and distrust among them that they moved away from each other. When the leopard saw that they had separated one from another, he attacked each one and so made an easy conquest of them all. Of course, in the kids' book, it says, okay, and the moral to this story is Satan would love nothing more than for God's people to be divided among themselves. Look at what's happening in the religious community today. All the sin that's going on in the world, among all the folks who say that they love God, they honor the Scriptures. They would love to see sin taken care of in this world. Why is it that religious people have so much trouble in doing this? Could it be that there's so much division among religious folks? I was talking to the preacher across the yard about this subject, and about how important unity is among religious folks. There's a whole lot of sin. There's a whole lot of sin in this world, and how much good it would do if we were all unified. And to that, amen. Amen. But take a look up and down Dido. You can find about 7 different churches that you can go to, that you can walk in and say, do you love God? Do you honor the Scriptures? Would you like to see sin taken care of in this world? Oh yeah. But none of these people, they will worship with one another. None of these people will have anything to do with one another. And of course, I lay this at the feet of denominationalism. But Satan does a good job when he's able to divide folks. Gossip is a tool of Satan to do exactly that. When we are unified, when we are getting along, when we're doing well with each other, when we're treating each other the way that we're supposed to do, we can do well. Philippians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul, of course, concerned about the unity that is preserved in the church, points to Jesus as an example of humility. That the only way that unity is going to be preserved in the church, of course, is if we all display that characteristic of humility. But this leopard knows that if these bulls are together and these bulls are unified, that he cannot stand against them. But if he's able to separate them, he can just pick them off one by one. There was a quote from Napoleon Dynamite. There's that martial arts guy that said, there's no flying solo. A lot of people in this world think that they're able to stand up against the wiles of the devil flying solo. We need each other. We need each other. We need the church. We need to be involved in each other's lives. Because if the devil can separate us, he can pick us off. He can get to us. Gossip, as I had mentioned, gossip is one of the tools that Satan uses. And he uses us. He uses ourselves against us. Why is it that people gossip? I think it was back in May. Anybody remember that big fire that happened in between Gulfport and Long Beach? It was off of I-10. I read that the conclusion about that is it was just arson. Somebody just set a fire. Why? You ever thought why do arsonists do what they do? Some arsonists, we know that there's financial motivations, right? If a business is going under, just set it on fire. I'm going to collect that insurance check and just be done with it. But there's another aspect concerning arson that I just for the life of me, I don't understand, that some arsonists set fires just to watch what they do. Read an article that says for roughly 1/3 of arsonists who return to the scene of the crime, the primary attraction is a desire for control and power. When they return to watch firemen fight the blaze, an arsonist may be thinking, I created this scene. I'm actually controlling what they are doing because I started the fire. That's a very powerful statement. And it becomes a thrill for people. And it gives them purpose every day. So, we think about that and we think, well, how silly, how ridiculous. Think about the gossip. Think about the gossip. The book of James talks about the tongue being a small fire, and how it is that a small fire can just create a huge forest fire. What does the gossip do to folks? He starts the fire. He starts the fire, and a gossip starts the fire, and he just sits back and watches what he does. Why does he do it? It could be for his own entertainment value. Why do people go around telling stories and tales about other folks? You might be a victim of this. And as well as you might have been somebody that did something like this and have reflected on it and have realized the sort of damage that is created, and when you think about it, you're embarrassed about it. But I want to talk about gossip as the sin that the Bible speaks against, and how what sort of damage it causes, and how it is that we can overcome it. Taking a look at the first page in lesson 9. What is gossip? What is gossip? Katie?
A person who chatters or repeats idle talk and rumors, especially about the private affairs of others.
That's right. That's right. Gossip is idle talk and rumors about the private affairs of others. How does the Bible talk about gossip? In what ways? Of course, I'm using the New American Standard. One who is a talebearer, or a whisperer, somebody who goes and chatters or repeats idle talk, somebody maybe even a slanderer, someone who tells false statements, damaging a person's character or reputation. Janice?
We need to make sure we stress that it's not only a person who's a talebearer, but the information that they have might be true, but some people don't have a need to know it.
That's right. That's right. And we're gonna talk about that in just a moment. Like any other sin that brings one satisfaction and pleasure, gossip can be addictive to some people. Paul warned Timothy and Titus the dangers of some women becoming gossips and busybodies. 1 Timothy chapter 5, talking about the younger widows. Titus chapter 2, verse 3, older women are to be reverent in their behavior, not malicious gossips. So a problem with the sin of gossip, of course, is that it is not to be accepted. We can't overlook it, and a person that has a problem with the sin of gossip needs to needs to overcome these things. What is it that gossip does to folks? What sort of damage is caused by gossip? This author had mentioned the fact that it reveals secrets. Why is that a damaging thing? The author brought up Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 13. He who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. He who is trustworthy conceals a matter. What do you think is being discussed here? One who knows certain things that is not available to the public. What does this one person do with that information? Makes it available to the public. That's right. Mima, and then back Janice.
Well, I was just going to say, they damage a person's character or their reputation when they expose it. And it also shows they are not trustworthy.
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna touch on that in just a moment, Janice.
And also, I think that some people gossip is because sometimes they don't have anything else to say to a person, and so they don't have anything else to say. Oh, let me tell you this juicy bit, and then people start thinking, oh, let me come to Janice because I know she knows all the juicy stuff, and so it kind of makes them look important too because they know everybody's business and they're willing to tell everybody.
You know, a person who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, and the author pointed out here, and I think it's a good point that a talebearer goes about. What does that mean? What I see is a purposeful movement to go around and telling other people, hey, let me tell you, a little something about so and so that I heard. Oh, okay, well, tell me, what is it? What is it? This person, a talebearer, for whatever reason, enjoyment, satisfaction, just for entertainment value, is going about telling, things that's not public information about other folks. Katie?
Something that we need to remember is when you talk about gossip, you always think about it in a negative sense, that what you're saying about somebody is negative. But that's not always the case. If you are repeating anything that individual told you in confidence, whether it's good or bad, it's gossip.
That's right. And if you do that, what does that do to your own character? What does Jesus say in Luke chapter 16? He who is faithful in a little thing is faithful with much, and he who is faithful in, paraphrasing, he who is faithful in greater things is faithful in, or is faithful in smaller things is faithful in greater things. So what does that do to your trustworthiness if you tell people things in confidence and then they go and tell other folks? What does that do to your own reputation? You might be going about damaging the reputation of other people. What does that do to your own reputation? You'll be known as a person. I don't tell these people secrets. When our kids are toddlers, why do we not tell them what we got their siblings for Christmas? Because you know that they're going to go around and say, I know what you got for Christmas. And it's only a matter of time before the secret comes out. They can't be trusted with those things. Janice?
You have this saying, like if you're that type of person, we said, oh, don't tell that person nothing because they can't hold water. And
That's right. That's right. And certainly we might know people like this. There's people in our life that we call them Facebook, because we know that anything that you tell them is going to become public knowledge. So if there's something that you want to become public knowledge, tell them. But certainly people have built a reputation for themselves as one who cannot keep secrets. And if a person cannot keep things confidential, and there's been a lot of times when I've had conversations with folks, and I know that people appreciate this, and I know that I appreciate this when people are telling me certain things that I perceive is sensitive information. I will stop them and tell them, I just want you to know that everything that you're telling me is between me, you, and a fence post. And there's been times when people say, no, it's okay for you to tell others. But otherwise, people are very appreciative to know that the things that they are telling you that you are a trustworthy person to keep these things private until that person wants to make those things public. So if we get involved in this, certainly we violate the trust of folks, and people they can't be trusted with the secret things. And what does that do to friendship? I tell you, one of the great blessings concerning friendship is that whenever there's things that's going on in our life that it's not time to make them public, but we need to talk about them. We need to confide in our friends. How many people would go to the person that that the first thing that they're going to do is turn around and go and tell somebody else? That person, you can't confide in them. You can't confide in them. You can't talk to them. There are things I know in my own past that I've talked to folks in the past that are dealing with various sins, and they're embarrassed about these things, but they wanted to talk about them. They wanted to know, how do I overcome these things? And they wouldn't be able to come to me to be able to help them if they knew that I was just going to turn around and tell everybody the big news about this sin that this brother or sister in Christ is trying to overcome. If I was that sort of person, I would be ineffective as a helper in that sense. Certainly, some more damage that is caused by gossip is they kindle strife. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 20, for lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, talebearer, gossip, contentions quiet down. Like charcoal to hot embers and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. What does gossip do among people?
Destroys friendships.
It destroys friendships. That's right. That's right. The talebearer is one who tells stories that ought not to be told. The purpose of these stories is not to inform and forewarn men, but to kindle strife for the amusement of the talebearer. It separates friends. An ungodly man digs up evil, and it is on his lips like burning fire. A perverse man sows strife, and a whisperer separates the best of friends. A slanderer separates intimate friends. So the gossip digs up dirt on people. He whispers it to a few individuals, then watches the destruction spread like fire. Have we ever done this, maybe unintentionally? I was reminded of a story where somebody was teaching a lesson about gossip and what it does. Once news about folks get out, it's likened to taking a feather pillow, taking it up to the top of Windy Hill, and then taking the feathers and just throwing the down up in the air and watching the wind carry it away. That's what our words are like. But what if there's a situation where you put something out there and that you know it's destructive? How easy do you think that it would be to go about and collecting up all of the feathers? It'd be impossible. You can't do it. Once it's out there, it is out there. I think that, of course, it's my opinion, that of all of the inventions of the 21st century, with good that it does, social media has been one of the most destructive tools of Satan that he has used amongst folks in order to cause strife amongst people. It used to be that you could take the feathers of a pillow and just throw it up in the air, and maybe it'll just fall in a nice, neat little radius. But what has the internet done? The internet has taken information, private information about people, and has made it worldwide. And for young folks, know this, and this is something that I keep trying to drill into my kids. Anything that you put on the internet is there forever. It is there forever. You think that you can go to your Facebook page and delete comments or delete posts? Nothing is ever deleted. Anybody who is involved in law enforcement and data, not investigations, but law enforcement that goes into the background of folks, anything that you put on the internet is readily available to find. It doesn't go away. Anybody who is skilled in data and computer security will be able to tell you this. I know that these social media websites want to put up a facade that things that you put are actually things that you can't get rid of, can't delete. You can't delete them. It is so incredibly important today about the subject of gossip because of the tools that is made available to us in order to spread these things. And the damage that it does to people, the damage that it does not only to the gossiper, but also to the victim of gossip, and what it does to the reputation of folks. Certain people's lives have been destroyed because of gossip. Their careers have been destroyed because of gossip. And I'm not telling you anything right now where you're sitting there thinking, what? I didn't know that. You know that. You've seen it. You might have participated in it, or you might be a victim of it. But it's there. And we need to recognize what it does to people, and whatever you put on the internet, please be careful. Please be careful. And especially if it's about other folks or involves other people, ask yourself the question. Is there a reason? What is the reason that I'm putting that information on there? Is the information true? Will the information build up or destroy? We're gonna talk about these things as we talk more about the subject of gossip. But concerning what it does to people, of course, it kindles strife, separates friends. It brings about anger. Again, going back to the Aesop tale about the three bulls. The only way that the leopard was going to be able to attack the bulls is if they're all separated. And what is the common theme that we find about gossip? Gossip separates people. Gossip destroys relationships. Gossip is terrible. It is awful. So we need to be careful about these things and not be involved in them. So how is it that we can overcome the sin of gossip? Well, first off, there's one last point. One last point. It shows one to be a fool. In Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 27, he who restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool, when he keeps silent, is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is considered prudent. This proverb here, in your own words, what is it teaching us? Keep your mouth shut at all times. You know, one thing my papa taught me as I was growing up, if you tell people everything that you know, it makes them smarter than you, because it means that they know what they know plus what you know. Or it might be how does that saying go? That people might be wondering, you know, who the fool is, but once the fool opens his mouth, you know, it removes all doubt on who the fool is. You know, don't run your mouth. Don't run your mouth. You know, sometimes we get into awkward situations where we feel like we need to keep conversations going. And you ever been in this situation before when you're kind of talking with somebody and you're kind of running out of things to say, so you just start making up stuff or maybe start talking about other people? Be careful about that. Be careful about that.
My mom always told us that if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything wrong.
Right. This is all of our moms told us that. How about that? If you don't have something good to say about a person, don't say it. Yeah, we know these things. We know these things. Janice, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, we're at the end of class. Why don't we talk about overcoming the sin of gossip and how it is that we can do these things. And you know, ultimately, gossip is going to be overcome through the practice of self-control, just like so many other areas of sin. And it's going to come down to self-examination. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I saying what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to sensitive information about folks. There might be times when sensitive information that is private needs to be made public. Certainly when it comes to the subject of warning others. Janice?
Just real quickly, and one of the reasons why people tend to gossip too is because they might want to bring you down a peg. You know, he or she isn't what you think she is. I know this about him, or I know this about him.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason.
Yeah. And also one of the things about firefighting, one of the basics, is the most effective way concerning firefighting is getting rid of the fuel. Getting rid of the fuel, and concerning the gossip, you know how to take care of a gossip. What's that?
Don't listen to
Don't listen.
Why you're not listening too.
And tell them how you're not listening. Yep. And there is a tactful ways to handle a gossip. You know, certainly we can call them out on that. That's gossip. We're going to do that. But you know, it could also be something as simple as you know, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something
Or
else.
you can say, oh, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I don't care about that. and the gossip, when they realize that you are not the sort of person that will tolerate it, they're not gonna tell you about things anymore. They're not gonna gossip to you. Okay, thank you for your attention. came to me as I was standing up here, and I said, oh, how does that saying go? And I just forgot it. I just forgot it. But yes, I will keep that in mind. I don't think I'm going to say that.